Hello and welcome to a No Distance Records podcast. This episode saw us go down to a record store in Camberwell in southeast London, Dash The Henge store. It's a store, it's a label, it's a venue, it's kind of everything that you want from a record store in this day and age. And the two guys that run it have clearly love music, and they clearly see music and community as being completely interlinked. And as a result, they've got some loyal customers. They've got kind of people who go in all the time. They've got people who want to play their shop. It's just such a fantastic interview, and it gets into the real mechanics of how to open a record store. Alan and I went down there a few weeks ago. Some of the sound isn't great. I'm not fantastic at this kind of stuff, so I'm sure you can work out. But it's completely listenable. But just to sort of brace yourself for that. So yeah, I hope you enjoy it. We're here, Al. We're here at Dash the Henge store. We should have done a video of us getting away over it from where I live, because it was planes, trains, not what it was. But we're here, and we're really happy to be here. Guys, introduce yourself for the loyal viewer of these podcasts.
Lovely to see you, gents. Thanks for coming down.
No worries.
I'm Tim. I am a co-proprietor of Dash the Henge store here in Camberwell, alongside...
My name's Chris O.C.
Chris O.C.
Yeah.
And Dash the Henge is a record store in Camberwell, but it's so much more than a record store, and we will get onto that. But first of all, we wanted to get a bit about your background, because obviously everyone who gets involved in the music industry has some sort of weird reason why. Is it for fame? Is it for money? Is it just to not get a proper job? So how did you guys meet? How did you guys get into all this?
So I'm in a band called Meat Raffle. We've been going for the past... Well, our first album came out in 2014, 15.
10th anniversary.
Yeah, that's right. There you go.
Was
10th
there a big
anniversary.
reissue? Was there a big era-style tour?
Not yet.
Is that an exclusive? Are we going to get an exclusive Meat Raffle reissue?
They're a bit like Coldplay.
Right.
Yeah. Only less... you haven't heard of us. About, I guess, halfway into that, about 5 years ago, I suppose, Tim showed up and demanded that he was our manager. And so he's been the Meat Raffle band manager for the past 5 years, and that's been our relationship up until now.
That's how we met. Absolutely.
What made you want to be their manager? Had you been manager before, or did you just suddenly thought, I want to be a manager of a band? And
I've been chatting to Warren for a couple of years about managing Meat Raffle. Mind you, it turned out he'd be chatting to all sorts of people about trying to get people on board, and I was never comfortable doing it because I had a very, very busy full-time job, so I didn't feel comfortable being able to commit to doing that. And then my situation changed in 2019, and I went, fuck it, let's do it. And we met that day, and actually we went down and recorded in the studio with Mick Jones from The Clash. So
really?
Oh, nice.
So yeah, it's been downhill ever since.
And then, how did you get from being manager of Meat Raffle to, I guess the first thing was the label, right? Was that the first thing that came about before the store?
Yeah, so the label came first. Again, all roads lead back to Jar Jar Sapien. Warren had recorded an album for another project he was working on called Scud FM with Nathan.
For the viewers,
absolutely.
It's a lovely pink record with a kind of silhouette-y kind of, I guess that's a bomb. Is it a plane?
Yeah, it's a V2 actually. Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
one you played me, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I did play this one. You're right.
Yes.
You got very drunk around my house.
I was quite intoxicated. It was good. I liked
and you were
it.
like, are they singing a song about a transistor in the computer? And I was like, yeah.
That's
the
it.
weirdest thing on it, mate. It's a great album.
I loved it.
It is a fantastic album. So that album had been recorded in 2016, I believe, up in Sheffield. So it's been recorded by Nathan from Fat White Family. He had built a studio up there on the back of Fat White's money called Champ Zone. They were basing themselves up there. They recorded their second or third album up there, I believe. Anyway, that album was sat on the shelf on the computer for a period of time. I met Nathan. He said, look, we really need to get this record out. We've set up a little label called Dash The Henge, but it's not really doing much. Do you want to come on board and help us get this out? Because I was also managing Scud at the time.
What was your first question? Why Dash The Henge? What does this mean? What does Dash Henge mean? What's the origin of the name?
Well, I think we were all aware of that anyway, because we'd seen Fat Whites using that hashtag for an extended period of time. Right. Hashtag Dash The Henge on a ton of stuff. So the kind of name already sort of existed out there. The label, in essence, existed. So, I hooked up with Nath. We worked together on getting the album out, and then he brought me on sort of permanently with the label. So yeah, we sort of grew the label together. That led to me and Chris hearing about Rat Records closing down.
Yeah. They decided that they were shutting up shop. I guess halfway through, or the beginning of 2022, they announced it.
Rat Records was a vinyl shop that before.
So it was a second-hand
record.
record shop
Right.
that was and CD shop that was in this building before we got here. And yeah, they announced it, and they left in June 2022. And yeah, leading up to that, it was I think it was at a meat raffle gig actually at Amp Studios. A sort of overzealous drunk conversation that turned into a reality.
I mean, I feel like everything like this starts with an
It does
overzealous
start,
drunk
yeah.
conversation. I mean, this is how
Do
we
it,
started,
yeah,
isn't it?
do it, yeah.
But no, yeah, Tim mentioned it at that gig, and I was like, I'd been looking for something else to do in my life. I've been chefing for the past 5 years, and alongside playing in bands. But I just made the decision that I wanted to change everything, and Tim came along with that idea, and I was like, that's it. Absolutely.
So it wasn't like when you did the label, one of the labels like, okay, label, we need a shop to sell it in. It wasn't like there was a direct linear thought.
No, not at all. As I say, they were very sort of separate ideas, and
Yeah, because at first it was the name Dash The Henge was considered, but we were also considering, should it just be a separate thing altogether?
Yeah, absolutely. And then we chatted to Nath about it, and he was insistent. He was like, no, we should absolutely utilise that name because we already built some sort of heritage around it. So yeah, it kind of made sense to do it. And then it just rolled, really, didn't it? There's a 3 other directors involved, people that were very kindly threw money into a pot, which we needed at the beginning. And yeah, it all moved very quickly. We decided we were doing it on the 12th of August. We got keys on 12th of September. We opened on 12th of October.
Blimey,
So it happened very, very, very
That is
quickly.
very
Yeah.
quick. And just going back to the label aspect though, how did this exist before? Obviously, you had it printed on vinyl. Were you trying to get it into shops? Were you just selling it on Bandcamp? What was the way of getting this out there?
No, so we have a deal with Republica Music.
Right.
Who
Okay. So you
are-
had that distribution.
Yeah,
thing
exactly.
already. That's
So that already existed before I got involved with the label. The deal had been done with Republic for effectively for production of or manufacturing of records and distribution.
fantastic.
So it's just a case of finishing off the music, and as I say, that was the majority of that was recorded in 2016. We did one day in Octagon Studios on Brixton Hill for some overdubs, and it was pretty much done. We got it mastered by Dean up in Sheffield, who we use for all our mastering. Bowling Green mastering, highly recommended. And and that was good to go. Artwork by Warren, Shoujo Sapien. I did the design layout, and yeah, we were good to go on that.
Scud FM in it for the listener,
Yeah.
and it is a great album. It's like one
It
of
is
those
a very
albums.
good
Every
album.
track you're like,
Yeah.
what is this? But in a really good way. So
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's yeah.
So when you've gone, obviously, was it Rat Records, wasn't it? It was
Yes.
before, and then you've taken that over. How tricky is that to set up?
Well, I think in all other cases, it's probably there's probably a bit of a nightmare.
Yeah.
But for whatever reason, it all went swimmingly. Like it was literally,
Yeah.
it was
So
like
what-
clockwork. Like
That's the thing,
month
it's just
after
that
month, we're like,
easy.
oh, okay, yeah, we got the keys. Okay, fine, yeah. And then like the Rat Records had like pretty much stripped it apart from the counter is where we're sat now, and that was the sort of the biggest part. But otherwise, of like ripping that out, of like getting this all sorted. We had all the woodwork made up by our dear friend Martin Smith, who's a great joiner.
Also
And,
fine artist.
And a fine artist. Yeah, I mean that was ready to install before the walls have been painted, you know. So that, and then he came in and did that in a day, and you know, when we ripped this out, we were like, right, this has got to be the live
Area.
the
Yeah.
live install, the music area. So
Was that an idea from the beginning to always have live stuff? You
Yeah.
always like there's got to be a key component of it, right?
Yeah, well, it's something we definitely wanted to like leave room for.
Yeah.
And and when we started doing it, it soon became like a big feature.
So just
what we're doing.
explain
But
what the live
that's-
stuff is for people who don't know it.
So every Saturday since we opened the shop, we have had live music. It started off at 5 p.m. Now we do a 3 p.m. slot and a 5 p.m. slot. it's nice and early. The shop's still open, so you know you're still able to browse and buy records and whatnot. But yeah, it's a free musical event for people in the area and further afield. We have people coming in every week now just for the live music, you know. And we treat this as like an open platform for sort of people starting out. If they if they want to get some experience playing live shows, for new bands that they're a new collective of musicians starting a new set, or touring musicians from other countries who want to play a quick afternoon slot in London. It works in loads of different ways, but the main thing is that it's a free thing. It turns this shop into a bit more of a cultural hub, and people come down for that specifically, which is really nice.
Does that kind of tick into more record sales as well? Because whilst people are here with the music,
well, we thought it would, but that's why. And then we got an alcohol license, which we noticed more people were coming in from the off license next door.
Spending more money next door in the booze shop than they were in our shop.
Is it like
for that 30 minutes of live music? That was kind of the point. We always kept it succinct, and as Chris said, there was always an idea that we were going to have in stores like record shops do. But I think very much on the very first night when we threw open the doors, after all our hard work in those 6 to 8 weeks before we opened up, and then suddenly the place was absolutely packed and we shit our pants, frankly. Everyone's going to trash our shop.
Success, what the hell?
Yeah, we can blame Warm Dusha for that one. It was absolute roadblock, including out onto the street into Camberwell. Yeah, and then we realised, wow, this is a vibe, isn't it? So then the following Saturday we booked, that was a Wednesday night, we booked a band in, I think it was a meat raffle actually, on the following Saturday, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And we're like, well, this is cool, we can do this every Saturday. So then we started with this, and we fluctuated a little bit early on. It was like sometimes at 6 o'clock, sometimes at 5 o'clock, sometimes at 7. We learned so much stuff on the fly, and so many times we went, it's really obvious that, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
But until you do it, you don't go.
Yeah, no, exactly.
So then we started baking it in at 5 p.m, and that became really important because, as Chris says, people come down now at 5 o'clock because they know something's going to be going on. And then, as I say, so many people want to play the shop. We ended up opening up a 3 p.m. slot as well, and that's just wicked.
Yeah.
It's like we have a more chilled thing at 3, and then slightly livelier thing at 5. So.
And we're always booked like 3 months ahead, 3 months in advance, which is a great sign. People, the word's got about. People really want to play, and it's like it's a non-intimidating way to get gigs. Like going to venues and approaching promoters and whatnot for some people can be a bit frightening almost, and it's just nice to be able to offer something that's so like,
especially when the promoter says, well, I'm going to put you on, but you've got to bring 20 people down, and
all
you're
of
like,
that
well,
stuff,
if I bring 20
we need a
people down,
demo and all that.
Whereas I've been down here for these live gigs, and they're great fun. Like I saw Duckworks down here, and
man.
fantastic. There was that little boogie,
that was a good one.
and like you said, it's 20 minutes, right?
Yeah.
So it's like
30 minutes.
30
minutes. Sorry, it just kind of whets your appetite, and at that time, 5 o'clock, like, I've got the buzz going.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's go over the OD and get shit faced.
Exactly. It is a perfect precursor to the rest of your night.
Yeah, definitely.
It works.
So with all you've got the live stuff, and I've just seen like T-shirts and guitar strings, and you've got your booze license. Is that all? It must still be quite tricky to run a vinyl shop. Sales, although people will tell you they're up, they're probably some of the bigger artists that are selling a lot of vinyl. So is that still quite risky to something to do? Obviously, you guys have done really well, and you're kind of smashing it, but. Just because I'm not from London, so where I am, there's like one record store, and it's it's trying to drum up that business, which you guys have done brilliantly. So is it still that?
Well, I think the clue is in what you just all the things you pointed out, and we realised again as we sort of did it, it was like, right, okay, well, we just need to keep adding new things to the equation, always often linked to music. Some of us have suggested things that weren't directly linked to music, and Chris has gone, why do you want to do that?
Like what?
Socks.
What sort of stuff? Socks.
Socks.
Someone came and asked for socks one day. I was like, that's brilliant. We should sell socks. I saw Chris the next day. I was like, customer came in there, brilliant idea. We should sell socks. He's like, really? And I kind of thought about it. I went, no, you're right. But yeah, we were trying to link it back to music. But that's it's a valid point because not everyone's got a record player, right?
Yeah.
But everyone's got a torso to wear a T-shirt. Most people have got some eyes and have the ability to read, to sell books. That kind of makes sense. The strings and things, you say guitar accessories, music accessories, makes a lot of sense because we have lots of bands that play over the road in the old dispensary, come through the shop. They can now buy bits and pieces, and people want to buy those bits and not buy them off Amazon or some other.
Yeah, and that's
'cause
there is
that's
that
a dying
culture.
trade as well. Like just getting guitar strings.
Exactly.
Some places you can't get 'em.
Well, yeah,
No.
they're not on the high street these days, and
No.
people do just buy them online. I mean, it's difficult to compete with people like Amazon or whatever. But like, yeah, it's important for having stuff like that is is a good thing for the community. It means a musician can come in and pick up a spare set of strings if they want. But yeah, I mean, some of the prices on the records, can frighten some people off, and they especially the new stuff, it can be a bit expensive. But like, with secondhand records, we've got plenty. We've got £1, about 200 £1 records over there. Got about 200 £2 records on that side, and there's plenty of like records for under a tenner. So, it's sometimes it's a hard sell, especially when new records are coming out and they're like £50. But yeah, the important thing is we try and keep things affordable in here.
So are you like stocking a variety of genres, or is there stuff you won't stock?
No.
Or are you kind of getting...
No, it's like wherever there's a demand, especially, obviously. But I think the thing that we said to each other when we were coming up with like what this would actually be is the main thing that stuck was like it has to be representative of the community that we're in. So we're not just like we're not doing like the obvious. We're doing more than just the obvious sort of usual genres that you find. Hopefully, I mean, it's hard to come across like sort of Latin American music when especially with the new stuff. The sort of the tendency is to stick to like indie and rock bands and like that kind of, or hip hop and like electronic music. So I'm struggling to get the sort of Latino represented.
We get a lot of people asking for that as well, don't they?
Yeah, we certainly do, because there's a strong population around here. But yeah, we try to cover as much ground as possible.
We're genre fluid.
Genre fluid is coined by Tim here.
And I mean, you talk about in the community, and you do get the sense, especially when you're in here, that there is a real community focus. Local bands from the area, can they turn up like they could do a rough trade of the day and say, look, I've got 27 inches here or 12 inches, can you stock it?
100%. Yeah,
all
we've
day
got a
long,
whole
yeah.
local artist section.
Because
That's
a lot of record stores don't do that. I go
No,
to some
I
record
don't-
stores
yeah.
and I say, and I'll go and say, can you point me to a local record label or local band? Say, oh, what? And I'm like, guys, come on.
Yeah, it's
like,
bizarre, isn't it? I
I'll
don't
find
know.
it
Someone else told me that story the other day that they went in to try and drop some records in, and they're just like, no, sorry, we don't. You have to go via our.
I think it's the
system.
corporate ones, isn't it? Because they want the proper
Yeah,
barcodes
possibly.
and all that kind
Yeah,
of
all of
stuff,
that
and
sort of
they're not allowed
stuff.
to do
It makes no sense to us really, and it's not just records; it's books and.
Yeah.
A guy bringing amazing photography magazine that he shot a bunch of photos at Notting Hill last year, and it's a beautiful thing. 44-page booklet, black and white photography, stunning photography. And he was just like, "Look, do you want to stock my book?" And we're like, "Yeah, absolutely."
And I see you've got a Douglas and Furs badge on.
I have got Douglas
a band
and
that I like, who are a local band. I like those guys. And
They played in the shop
do
a
you
couple of weeks
use,
back.
is this a scouting ground for your label as well?
Yeah, I guess it can be. There's so many bands come through. Do you know what I mean? We have to be like, the kind of the plan with the label. It does run separately, but absolutely, if we see somebody play in the shop, then and I'm here and I'll tell Nathan about it, and vice versa. It's like,
And are you signing those guys like on a one and done kind of deal? Or are you gonna go, right, we're gonna do this record for you, then you're off, or are you signing them to like a 2-album deal?
No, very much. It's the whole concept with Dash The Henge initially was for to find a home for outsider artists that can't find a home elsewhere, and it's very much a case that we're going to help you make your first record, and then you're free to go and do what you want to do. And that very much comes from Nathan's background and experience being the Fat White Family and sort of being potentially stung in those sort of deals in the past. It's like, no, look, we'll help you do that, get over that first hurdle from an artist-centric sort of angle, and then you're free to go and do what you want to do.
It's those physical releases that the band struggle to get.
100%. And there's a reason.
That gap.
Expensive.
It's not cheap, is it?
Yeah.
And there's a lot of work involved.
Or the mastering, if we even get it anyway, get the master done.
Yeah. Nathan's very good at that. Do you know what I mean? Again, he's a connected guy. He's done a lot of great things, so he's very good at sort of striking deals with people and make sure everybody gets paid, but he'll make sure he gets sort of nice deals on everything, so we can do stuff for a good price. So.
Just for anyone watching, the reason why our eyes keep darting off is because this shop is open and there are people in it.
It's a functioning shop.
So you can't see, but in Tim's thinking about us against
full of
sales
people right now.
So there we are.
Chetna was robbing us.
Yeah, our eyes keep darting off there.
If you're enjoying this No Distance Records podcast, then why not check out our No Distance Records Release Radar playlist on Spotify and Apple Music. It features under-the-radar acts who have no more than 20,000 listeners or 100,000 plays of a song in their catalog. And if you're not enjoying this podcast, check out our playlist anyway.
I just want to jumping back to the thing about building the shop very, very quickly, because there's a very important person we also have to mention, which is Chris DeFari, who is
He's the other Chris.
Yeah,
I'm Chris O.C. He's
Chris O.C. and Chris DeFari.
Right.
So there are two other. There's Jamie and Mikey who are involved in the project, but in terms of sort of day to day, it's myself and O.C. and Chris DeFari, and to the point about building the shop and the reason potentially it worked so quickly and smoothly. OC was still chefing, but by night he was buying records. Starting from zero was no small task, and myself and Chris DeFari were in the shop literally stripping it out, taking down every final show, because obviously the guys had stripped it down to a point. It was still a lot needed doing, so stripped the whole thing out to a raw shell, basically. Painted the walls white, painted the ceiling grey, all the lighting's as it was, everything's kind of bar the woodwork. And the liquor paint, it's the shell is as it was. So yeah, we sort of had our heads down doing that. So Martin built the woodwork, Chris bought the records, and then it kind of all just magically somehow came together.
And where did you get the records from, Chris? Were you going around car boot sales or charity shops? What was the deal with that?
I mean, various places. Less charity shops and car boot sales. It was more putting the word out and people responding with, just individuals wanting to sell collections, and that's generally how we keep the second-hand part of the shop stocked. There's a lot of people downsizing at the moment, so people wanting to sell their collections.
Partners are saying, "You're going to get rid of that vinyl.
You
need that spare room for the baby." Kind of thing.
And then with the new stuff, it's a matter of getting friendly with the massive distribution companies that deal with all of that. At first, actually still a little bit, it's a bit of a confusing process when you're getting, everyone seems to be linked. It all seems to come out of the same factory, but they make it all, all so complicated and long-winded. So, getting there with that bit. But yeah, so it's people, we've been inundated with people sort of selling records and their collections.
So is Discogs not kind of like killed a bit of that second-hand market off?
I don't know. I suppose it's double-edged, isn't it? I mean, in some ways it keeps people interested because it's such a massive thing, and people are on there a lot, and they're not just there to buy things. It's like they're there to keep an eye on like how much things should be worth. Like people are in here when they look at our prices, they check. You can see them checking on Discogs, and we tend to like on purpose price like under what the going rate on Discogs is, because it's just it just keeps growing ridiculously. You can see it on a graph, like it's just constantly going up. So we don't want to be part of that. So we try.
That said, we've just joined Discogs.
We have, yeah. We still sell.
Well, yeah.
No, it's not that we don't want to be part of it, but we want to. We don't want to be part of that, like just in stupid increase of
well, I guess some people are just collectors of they're not even going to listen to the record. They're just
I think there's a bit of that, but it's also there was a realisation, because as I look at the top row up there, which is our sort of very expensive second-hand records.
We've got the Ramones up there.
A couple of Led Zepp records. Floyd First Press.
Yeah.
De La Soul.
Rare hip hop records. Some Japanese weird jazz thing.
Actually, could you explain why something becomes more expensive? Because everyone always goes, I've got a Led Zeppelin in my loft, and it's like, you look at it on Discogs and it's £6. So I think a lot of people get confused just because it's an old classic album, why it's not actually worth any money.
And we get that question a lot.
Yeah.
And I always go, talk to Chris.
For everyone watching.
I mean, if you've got the first pressing of something, that's when it's going to be expensive. First pressing and in mono, if it's first pressing UK mono version, and that's like it depends on how many there are that have been put into circulation, and if there are very few, then and it's a desirable record, then the price, then it'll be expensive because it's a rarer object at the end of the day. We've got our most expensive record is a hip hop compilation series called Bad Meaning Good, And this one's the first volume by Skits. This guy's Skits, and it's just a compilation, a mixed compilation. But the reason is we've got it up as like over 200 quid, almost 300 quid. But it's mostly because it was designed or art directed and designed by Banksy. So it's one for the Banksy collectors.
Banksy effect.
Yeah. So, you know, there's all sorts of reasons like that. It's fairly rare. They didn't make loads of them, and it was before Banksy had really sort of made this massive phenomenon around his art. But there's that, or you know, the classic thing: someone dies, and suddenly, you know, their music and their back catalogue becomes really desirable, and then the prices go up, I suppose.
And the scarcity thing is, so we get a lot of sort of late 90s, early 2000s hip hop records that come up pricey, and there's a reason for that, because that was sort of prime CD time. So you imagine those records, like for example, but hundreds of those records I had on CD, but I never sort of dreamt of having them on vinyl because I wasn't doing vinyl at that point. And you get those like Doggy Style jumps to mind. We had a first press of Snoop Dogg Doggy Style.
Yeah, I've even noticed like even kind of smaller bands where they've done 200, 300, 400 run.
Mm-hmm.
And then 10 years later, it's worth 100 quid, and it's just, and they've not gone superstardom. They've just got a fairly decent following, and people want that first pressing, don't they?
Yeah, I think that it's collectability, scarcity. It's
there's
things
like
go in and out of vogue. You know,
does that mean that my cassettes on my album are going to start being worth something soon?
No, I've got one.
Everyone's got one. You're worth millions.
We'll stick it on our Discogs.
Yeah.
We'll jack it up. Don't worry.
Well, there's the whole like reissue label finding like that lost record, and then it becoming really famous through the reissues, and then there's you find out there was only ever 99 made of that record.
Right.
You know, and that's sort of like the holy grail of record collecting, isn't it? When you get that, you know. And those sort of records sell for they're in the thousands.
A copy of Rumours that you bought in '77. This is one of the first ones.
I reckon that's probably the record that we've had through the shop more than any other record.
Rumours. Yeah. Well, it's also I think it's the best-selling
produced record.
I think it is the best-selling records.
Yeah,
there's a lot of them about, basically.
Yeah,
that's the point.
Yeah.
But we talk about the top shelf and the expensive records, but at the end of the day, that isn't what people come in here for.
It's not what people get excited for.
Yeah, and it's a joy. Do you know what I mean? We get kids coming through now who are buying their first records, and we regularly, at least once, twice a week,
people want to find bargains
through using a record player.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
People are, but this place is for that as well. One of the early things we also said in the shop, what we did not want this place to be was record shops that we remember from, say, the 90s, early 2000s in Soho, and that when you walked in there, and they just sort of looked at you, what you're doing in our record shop sort of thing. We always said this would be an open.
And it's genuinely not like that. I've been in a few times, and it is genuinely not like that. Because I've come in, I've chatted to you.
It's also mad. Why would you make a shop and then treat people like that? It's bizarre, isn't it?
Yeah, no, I remember going back in record shops back in the day, and it was like, I shouldn't be in there.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the vibe. Or you bring a record up to the counter, and you can just see them judging you. You're like, mate, I'm literally buying this off you. So
yeah, if you've got it in your shop, what the fuck?
No, we're not like that, are we?
No, not at all. Not at all.
Unless you buy Rumours. Anyway.
We've heard a lot of rumours, as I say. ABBA at the minute. Everyone's after ABBA.
Yeah?
I think because obviously with the big musical production that's happening in East London, we get at least 2 or 3 people a week coming in asking for ABBA.
Yeah,
and then we do get a lot of ABBA through, because there are a lot of ABBA records produced, like manufactured. So.
But I think the fun bit for people is like they want to find affordable records that either they love or like make a new discovery, and that is the main thing for us. Like the way we've laid everything out as well is mostly in alphabetical order, and we've done minimal genres, and it's more because we want people, rather than just going to the section that they always go to, we want them to do a bit of digging and hopefully come across something that they wouldn't have expected to come across, or make a new discovery somehow. And that for us that was sort of, that's the kind of exciting part of record.
And with the bargain bins, people do dig, and then they can just pick bits because they look at the cover.
Yeah,
or they
£2 and it's worth a punt.
Exactly. So that's pretty cool. We like that.
Cool. I guess the other question we've been asking everybody is, haven't we? So completely opposite to vinyl with Spotify, which everyone is consuming. If it's not Spotify, it's another streaming service. Yeah. That's had an impact on record sales and the way people listen. Do you think it's a good thing or a bad thing, or is there good and bad to it?
There's not a lot we can do about it.
Yeah.
Number one.
I've heard you boo Spotify in this shop. So
ingest. In jest, I've probably been signed up to Spotify as long as Spotify's existed, to be fair. And I remember when it came out, thinking this is fucking incredible. Do you know what I mean? Having been through being of an age that tapes was probably my first format that I actually bought that was live, and then obviously I discovered vinyl later and started buying records. Then I went CDs, and I actually bought digital tracks for a period of my life. And then I guess records have always been the constant. But I don't know. There's nothing we can do about it. It's there. It's an incredible thing for discovery. You know, you can. Yeah. It tells you about a record. You can go and have a little listen to it. I think there's definitely a generation of people that are coming back to physical product. It's worth talking about CDs on that one as well. We've discovered that's been really interesting. But
what's the CD market?
Well, we've actually now.
I thought you said, "What's the CD?"
Yeah, compact disc. No, we had so we held off doing CDs initially, and maybe that was us being a little bit snobby, to be fair. But then people kept coming in and asking for CDs, and then there's a realization that again, records are big, they're chunky, they're hard to put around. People were still digging their CDs, and then you've got this whole thing that you've got. Imagine this now. You've got a generation of kids that are coming through the shop that have never had any physical formats, let alone CDs. I mean, they were born after CDs, so they were the streaming generation. So we started getting these kids coming in saying, "Oh, just put my first CD player from Cash Converters on the corner," and suddenly digging in the CD bins and pulling out like Bob Dylan records. I'll go 7.
Sale about to be made here, guys.
Exactly. Yeah. So we've sort of put that to one side, and because you can buy a classic album for £2, £3, £4, you know. So CDs are all right by us.
Absolutely.
Streaming, boo.
No, but
Tim's just going off to sell on the podcast. Tim's going off to complete a sale. Just to prove this is a function record shop.
This is a functioning record shop. Yeah, I mean, like Tim said, it is those streaming platforms are good for finding lots of music and being having access to it. For lesser known musicians, it's a good platform for putting your music up online and easy way to find your music, and that has definitely helped massively. Obviously, the financial side of it is horrendous, and there's people getting over like a million plays a month and only making an insignificant amount of money. So that's upsetting. But then people are turning towards wanting a physical collection again, and especially for younger generations who've never actually done that. For some people, it's a case of they've sold their old collections years ago and actually they miss it, and they want to start collecting again. And for people just getting into collecting, it's they realise how nice having that sort of tactile part to your music consumption is really fun and important, and brings you even closer to the music that you enjoy online. Then you can go out and buy the ones that you love, and you can make a really beautiful collection from that.
So I guess in some ways, if you're spending £10 a month on Spotify, £120 a year, that's more than most people would have spent in music
on records.
Before,
Yeah,
So
absolutely. Physical formats.
Obviously, the money getting from Spotify to the artist is the huge problem, as we all know. But I guess that if you can convert just them to go and buy 2 or 3 albums a year off the back of that, well, that's it's getting that.
Yeah, there's something. But I mean, there's a lot. There's a lot that needs to be fixed, I think.
Yeah, of course. Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that end of it. But again, we're not here to fix the music industry's problem, sadly. That's with the major labels and the tech companies. At the end of the day, we're just trying to provide a shop that is a platform for people to, number one, to discover physical music, but also for up and coming artists to sell their product. Which is hugely important. It's like we're very upfront with the shows we have in store. There aren't any fees involved. It's purely for promotional purposes. But if any artist has got physical product, be it albums, be it T-shirts, we give 100% back of those sales to the artist. Wow. Now, some people have done an amazing job on that. Hannah who came through. That rhymes with nicely, doesn't it? Hannah produced flexi discs of 2 tracks that she'd released in the previous sort of 6 months. Beautiful blue and red flexi disc, really nice design. She was selling those for £5 each. She'd done a good few £100 just selling these flexi discs on the day. So there are ways and means if you think around it and stuff. And pretty much every band that comes through has T-shirts, and they sell a few T-shirts. So yeah, there are ways and means at the end of the day.
Someone at the door is not sure to come in or not.
Nah, they're right.
They're all right.
I think they're
I guess the final question, is what advice would you then give to? I mean, we speak to a lot of people at the other end of the industry who are sort of making music or mixing and what. You guys with the bit which makes the money, right? For people, what advice would you give to bands wanting to pursue a music career, wanting to get stuff in record shops? I guess. What advice would you give them?
Never start a band.
We know a great song about that by Lord Jar Jar Sapien again. Again, this physical product thing, tapes are a big thing. We haven't touched on tapes yet.
Please tell me tapes are a big thing.
Tapes are a big thing. Have you imagined
we still
can't sell one.
We've touched on the fact that producing records is not a cheap thing to do. Whether they're hand cut, lathe cut, whether they're pressed, whether they're produced in volume or short runs, it's an expensive business producing records. Tapes you can get duped for a couple of quid.
Yeah.
And we've got a lot of artists that have come through, new up and coming artists that have produced mixtapes. And they can sell them sort of 2-3 times the cost. That's a really smart idea. There's another thing. I had a theory about this a long time ago, having worked on many merch stores with bands I've worked with in time. And people would say to me they'd buy a copy of the album to support the artist, and they're going to go away and listen to that thing. And many of them would say, I haven't even got a record player, but I want to buy this record in order to support the band. Now actually then you watch them walk away and awkwardly carry a record around for the rest of the gig, when actually you get a tape, you're still buying, you've got that tangible physical product you've given back to the artist, and you can stick it in your back pocket. There you go. Tapes.
I mean, yes, tapes.
Yeah, there it is.
Buy tapes. We sell tapes.
There you
Please.
go. Exactly.
The tapes are nicer, right?
I know I like my tapes. Good coaster.
Yes. You can use it as a coaster. I don't care.
Yeah, multi-purpose.
Sorry, Chris. You were about to give some of the best words of wisdom.
I really no, I really wasn't.
Don't make tapes.
No, I like tapes. So
yeah,
no, I just
we all like tapes.
Well,
got a tape
guys,
player.
thanks so much for having us. Let us come down to your
pleasure.
shop and
Thanks
take
for
us a little
having
bit. It's been great. I mean, I say this all the time, but it's so positive to meet people who are optimistic about the music industry, and we seem to find these people all the time. So it's really good, right?
Yeah, I think you guys are kind of plugging all those gaps that seem to be missing from when I grew up, where you had music people involved in the majors and the industry. You don't seem to have that now, and this is where it seems to have gone, and you're kind of covering all those bases.
Yeah, I think so. Keep it indie, innit?
Yeah.
At the end of the day, we had a lovely one the other day actually, because there was a real buzz in here. We had 2 bands in at the weekend, a more sort of jazz-based band called
Delish Donut.
Delish Donut, 3-piece young jazzers, and they were wicked. And then we had a local band that we know quite well. We've been waiting to get in the shop for a long time. Scarlet Wolf.
Oh, she's great.
She's really good, man.
Yeah.
And they
put on the page.
Yeah. And they were a little bit late
smashed
coming
it.
on, so it was a little bit darker. There was a bit of a buzz for her to come on, and they came on. They totally smashed it. And there was a guy at the counter. He was a bit pissed, to be fair, but he did lean in at one point, and he said, "Look, I've lived in Williamsburg in New York in like the early 2000s, and what you've built here is a very, very similar vibe to that. So it's little independent outlets providing a platform for the local creative community with no sort of reason for doing it other than wanting to support the community. So yeah, I think there's a lot of it going on. We're just pleased to be playing a small part in it.
Yeah, man.
Cheers, guys. Well, thanks for having us, and
Nice
I'm
one,
sure
lads.
we're going to put in the links all your details and links to all the stuff you
Amazing.
do, all your socials, all of that. Come down to Camberwell, come down to the store, check out one of the live shows, buy some stuff.
Exactly.
And cheers, guys. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.
You're listening to a No Distance Records podcast. Make sure you subscribe, like, follow to get updates on releases, events, and other things we've not even thought of yet.
Thanks very much for listening or watching that interview. I hope you got the sense that it was a real breathing, functioning shop as we were down there. I thought those guys are great, and their sense of how to bring music and community together, I think, is a kind of really useful blueprint for anyone who wants to have a career in this crazy industry. And always good to hear them banging on about how cassettes are coming back. We like that here in No Distance Records. Thanks very much for listening, and make sure you like and subscribe and do all that normal stuff, and we'll catch you next time. Thank you.